everyone. Today we're going to look at Suppanel Android HMI to Click PLC. And if we go over to the Suppanel website, you'll see that it gives you a little bit of a description of what Suppanel is. It's actually an Android app that you put on your device, and you can communicate to your logic through either OPC UA, S7 or Modbus. So any of those devices the Suppanel will then communicate to. In our case right now we will look at using Modbus TCP. And what you can do is you can create some highly visible and configurable controls with it, and it comes with a built-in designer already. So what we're going to do is actually going to go through the steps involved in creating an app to our Click PLC, and we're going to use an existing program that we had from our serial communications. So we're going to be communicating the Click to the Solo using Modbus RTU, and then we're going to use the Suppanel HMI to communicate Modbus TCP to the Click to update and view the values. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is actually install Suppanel, and if we go over to the Google Play Store, you'll actually see that we can actually install it, or we can download the APK file in order to install it. So just like every Android app, you just install it, and it actually comes with or to your device itself. So once we have it installed, let's go and take a look at our program. Now, currently I am connected to my my PLC. I'm connected through my Ethernet port. It's located right here, and this is through the software that I'm looking at. And also we have our Solo 4896, and we're going to be communicating through our serial port, our RS45. This is Modbus RTU. It's going in there to correct and read values. So looking at the actual software, now we've done this before, as I mentioned, in our series about serial communications. So all these links we put into the notes that you'll see below, as well as on our website. So the first thing we do is we start off our communication to the from the Click to the Solo, and then we look at our timing cycle. And what we do is we're using a shift register. And what we're doing is every 50 milliseconds we're shifting one bit within the shift register. So I only have one bit on at a time. That sets up my communications. And on my communications, first of all I use the receive port to look for my my present value of my read of my Solo, and there's my Modbus address for it. Then we look at the LED status, and we use another reads instruction. That will tell me my status bits of everything you see here on the front panel actually. So it's my two outputs, my Fahrenheit or Celsius, my auto tune, and my 3 alarms on this controller. And then the third thing we do is we actually take a register in our Click, which is DS10, and we actually write the set value for the controller in it, and their set value is located right here on our controller. So that's the program itself, and a couple things that we need to pay attention to, and that is our IP address. So if we look at our COM port settings, and I look at port number 1, we look at setup. What you'll see is this is my IP address for the setup here, and I have 192.168.1.130, and that's important to know because that is actually my IP address that we will be communicating our Modbus TCP through. So we keep that in mind. Let's hit OK. We also have port number 3 as we did in the software, so refer back to the previous post on the serial communications, and it shows you exactly how to set this up with your Solo with the Click. So we'll just hit OK. And the next thing we need to know is actually where the addresses are for some of these items that we're going to be using, like our our DS1 here, we'll need to know that address, or the Modbus address. And what we do is we use the address picker from the Click software, and we just call that up. And what you'll see is we can actually display only the bits that we're using, and then we'll display our address here. So if we look at our DS, we have DS1. So our address here is 400001, and our DS10, which is our right, is 400010. So they're the two addresses we need there. And then we need the addresses for our individual bits, which are located in 301 to 308. And you see here, there's where our individual bits reside. So very easy on the Click to determine exactly where the addresses are. We'll hit OK for that. Now next, what we want to do is we want to call up we'll actually put this in run first. So we'll have this running. Okay. And what you see is our program's executing, and we have our communication flashing on our port number 3, indicating that we are communicating to our controller. We can actually monitor the I/O bits by looking at the data view. And there's my data view there. And let's just change that value to 11. So we'll write that value in, and you see it automatically changes the set value to 11 now. So we know that our program's actually working. So let's now look at our Suppanel, and we'll use it to set up the communications and take a look at it. So when we first start it up, this is what it looks like. If we go to the left side, it's the main menu, and we need to go into expert mode in order to start our programming. We have expert mode and we have user mode. Then we hit the main panel, and we can hit new program or new panel. When we do, the new panel will actually come up, and we can actually enter a name for our panel. Now in this case here, we'll type in Click PLC, and then we'll say space, and then solo control, and then we'll hit OK then to save that panel. We come right into design mode. Now design mode is actually where we will make all of our controls. So there's another menu on the right. This is our design menu, and then we'll come down and we'll hit panel properties. And panel properties will give us what's happening within this panel itself. Now we can create multiple panels for different ones. So the first thing is the background color. We'll give it a little shade so that we can actually see this very well on our screen. And then we'll change the update period. This is the update time for the communications, and we'll use it at 200 milliseconds. That's the quickest that we can, and we'll use the keep screen on. So once the panel's showing, it's always on. So there's our panel, and we've already set our update at 200 milliseconds. We'll now add a new control. Now the new control, you'll see it comes up like this. We'll minimize the static control, and we'll go to connection. So we'll specify our connections now, and the one we want to use is actually Modbus connection. When we do, you'll see the control gets placed on our screen. We can click and drag that down to the bottom here, and now we can set the properties for that control. A couple ways we can do it. We can double click on that control, or we can use the design menu and go to control properties. Then what we do is look at the connection itself. So the name of it is Modbus CONN, and then we can change our IP host that we saw previously. So it's 192.168.1.130, and TCP port is 502, which is the default for Modbus. And we also want to make sure that the hide click is when it's in run mode, it hides it. Then we can test it, and right now our test is successful, so that means that we are communicating to our controller. So that's our setup of our communication. Now what we do is we click OK or that check mark, and we go back to design mode, and we can add controls to our screen. And the first thing we're going to do is add our link to variable, and we'll enter the circular gauge. So we'll put this gauge in here, which will represent our present value. So we'll increase that size a little bit there. And once again, we can double click, or we can use the design menu to go into our properties for our control itself. So when we do this, let's look at our link variable, and our connection mode, the one that we program, pops up, and then we type in our address for our present value. In our case here, it will be 400001. And you'll see once we do, then it goes from red to a white, so it indicates that yes, we have a proper address in there. And then you see their data type is integer. So now, next we'll look at scale limits, duration, aspect, and right. And our high limit will be set for 50. And our divider will be 10, because as we read information in, it reads as 3 digits. Our test value, this is something we test when we're in our design mode. So right now it's 350, which should read 35. Then we'll look at our label, and we'll change the label of our gauge, and we'll change that label to click dash and solo. And again, we'll hit the green button. But first of all, what we'll do is, you can see that you can change your type interface. And then we'll look at colored sections. Now, colored sections just indicate which sections of that gauge are going to be different colors. So 15 is going to be below, it's going to be blue. 30, between 50 and 30 it's green, and above 30 it's going to be red. So that's it for setting up our circular gauge properties, and we'll click the X, and now our button, our control now reflects everything that we've done. Now next we'll add another control, and the next control we'll add is a link text. Now link text, we'll use this to display our set value. Now we can reposition this and scale it very easily. And once again, we double click it, or we can, from the design menu, we can go to control properties. Then our connection link, our link variable, we look at Modbus connection again. We look at our address now, which will be 400010. And again, it's an integer type parameter that we're putting in. The next step we'll do is we'll use our text format, and what we'll do is change the text format. You'll notice that it was a little small, so let's change that to 24. There we go. And then what we'll do is change our value display and write. So we can change text before, which will say SV for our set value, and then equals, and a space, and then our text after, which will indicate that we are looking at degrees C. Then once again, we have our divider. So again, our divider is by 10. So if we read a value, it's 3 digits. We want to make sure that we divide by 10 so we get the actual value that we want. Decimal places, we'll have to leave it 1. So our test value, we'll use 23 or 250 or 235. So 23.5. So then we'll hit the writable, which writable means that we can actually write values into this. Then we can change our maximum to say 50.0, and our minimum we'll leave it at 0. So that's our link text properties. And again, hit the green check mark in the upper right corner, and you'll see that our parameters now change and we have a nice display for our set value. So now hitting the design menu again and new control, and this time now what we'll do is look at states with alarm and text states, and we'll move that down. And what we'll do is pick up on the two outputs that we have on of our Solo, and we'll determine if they're on or off. So again, once we have it displayed, we double click it to bring up the properties, and we'll go to our link variable first. Again, our connection is going to be the same, and now it's asking for an address, and our address this time will be 8295, which we saw in our address picker, and our data type is going to be Boolean. So it's an on-off as opposed to an actual integer that we had before. So then we go to states, and under states, this is the value at 0. And then this is the text that we have to represent the value 0. Then you can see that I have a test value, and either it's writable, and then we have background execution. So as we change different states, we can actually put in different text. So right now that's at state 0, and we'll say out 1. But what we should actually do is leave text 0 at 0, and then we'll add new state, and state 2 we have the value of 1, and then we'll put output text out 1. So when we get the text of 1, or the value of 1, it then comes in as out 1. Then our background suppression, the control continues running in the background, and even when the device is in sleep mode, so it will monitor. So again, once we're finished with that, we hit check, and now we have our condition on our screen. Next, we can actually copy that instead of rewriting it again. So we'll just copy that, control, we're going to copy, and then we go hit the control again and hit paste. We reposition it, and then we can change our variables. So double click on it, or from the design menu go to properties, and again we can change our state, or first of all our linked variables. We'll change the address to the new one, 8296, and then we'll look at our state, and state 0 remains the same. State 2 will change this to output 2. Alright, so that is our text state, and so now we have our 2 set up. So that is our control now completed. So what I'm going to do now is we have our program running, and I will call up my subpanel in ArcWelder, which is basically the same as it is before, or as we had on our BlackBerry Priv, and that was running Android 6.0 Marshmallow. So once we have our design done, if we hit the menu, what you'll see is we can actually run the panel. We can also go into user mode, which actually will run the panel as well. So what we'll do is hit just the run panel. You can also see that we can share this panel, and we can display it or give it to other people to run. So let's hit just run panel. So what you see is my graphic here. We have my set value set for 11. We have my present value at 19.9, which is pretty close there. It's a good graphic on this subpanel device. So let's first of all check out our present value. I'll hold this thermometer here, and you can see now my temperature increasing. Now we get a very good response because we're dealing with 200 milliseconds. So the more I hold it, the more it goes up. So you see that's working quite well. Then I can change my set value. So I double click on it and I can change my set value. We'll change it to say 25. 0.5. We'll set OK. So as soon as I enter that in, again, the response is very quick on my display here. Now you'll see my output 1 here as it comes on. My output 1 here, as it comes on, it will actually then trigger this to say out 1, to indicating that it is on. Now what we can do is actually increase this temperature a little bit more, and we'll change this to, we'll say 45. Hit OK. And you see now our temperature is at 45. And so we'll see this output here turn on once again. When it does, you'll see my output here actually turn on, or my indication turn on, and there it is. So our control seems to be working just as we expected. Suppanel can be downloaded, again free of charge. There's a 60-day evaluation period. So download it today. It's a great little package that can give you some insight of what's actually happening on your production floor. Now, all the links and documentation can be found on our website at accautomation.ca. If you like this video and like to see more, there are 3 ways in which you can help us out. You can give us a thumbs up so other people can find this information just as you have. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at the end of the video. You can also go to ACC Automation and subscribe to our website. When you do, notification will be given to you every time we publish new content to the site. You'll also get 2 free ebooks on numbering systems and robust data logging. And the third thing to do to help us out is to tell a friend or colleague about the site. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.